Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. We continue our study of the book Al-Adab Al-Mufrad, the Imam Al-Bukhari alayhi rahmatullah, and we are still within the Bab Uquq al-Walidain, chapter dedicated to disrespect or disobedience to one's parents. And in the last time we had this lesson, we began discussing the narration, but we didn't complete the sharh. We're going to complete the sharh of that narration in this sitting. And that narration that we took in the last sitting, it comes on the authority of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, who said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ala unabbi'ukum bi akbar al-kaba'ir," shall not inform you of what is the greatest of the major sins. And the companions, they said, Bala ya Rasulullah. Of course, the Messenger of Allah, qala, he said, al-ishraku billah. He mentioned first and foremost, shirk with Allah, making shirk with Allah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. Wa uquq al-walidain. He mentioned thereafter, disrespect to one's parents. Then he was laying down when he said these two. Then he sat up. He sat upright, and he said, Allah wa qawl az-zur. He said, indeed, qawl az-zur, yani bearing false testimony. And he continued repeating that statement numerous times to the point that we, the companions, said later, we wish that he would just stop. We wish that he would just stop. Now, so we began discussing this narration, and we're going to complete the sharh in this sitting, inshallah ta'ala, and suffice with that. So this one will be somewhat short, as the next hadith, it is quite lengthy, and we will take that in totality in the next sitting, inshallah. And so we pick up from the statement of the Sharh Sheikh Zayd al-Madkhali, ثم ذكر حقوق الوالدين. Thereafter, after mentioning shirk with Allah Azza wa Jal, he mentions حقوق الوالدين, or disrespect to one's parents. He says that now أنه من الكبائر العظيم, and that it is from the heinous and horrible major sins, the affair of disrespect to one's parents. And we mentioned in the last sitting how even to the point that they mentioned that the tears of your parent, if you make your parent cry, then those tears of your parent are a major sin upon you. That is, provided that they are rightly guided, they are right-minded parents who don't just cry and get upset over silly things. But if it is something that you have caused, you have disrespected your parent in a way that you angered them and upset them to the point that it makes them cry, then the tears of your parent are a major sin in your books. And so this affair is not something which is light. And even indeed, the Messenger of Allah, he mentioned amongst the signs of the hour is أن تلد الأمة ربتها, that the slave lady will give birth to her mistress. And the scholars have explained this different ways in terms of the slave lady giving birth to her mistress. And amongst the ways that they have explained it, is that you will find an abundance of disrespect coming from children towards their parents, such that they will treat the parents like they are a slave. Now, you find this oftentimes, especially amongst the kuffar. You find some of them, verbally disrespecting their parents, raising their voices at them, even to the point that some of them may even raise their hands. Some of them may even assault their parents. They may even assault and hit their parents. And so this, no doubt, is from the heinous and horrible major sins. And you'd be surprised at what the Salaf will consider disrespect. The Salaf, they will consider certain things that we quite possibly have done to be disrespect. To the point that one of them, it was said concerning him that he was well known to be someone who treated his mother well. One of the Imams of the Salaf, he treated his mother well, and this is well known about him. And so they observed that in spite of the fact that they knew that he treated his mother well, they never observed him ever eating with his mother. He never sat down and ate and had a meal with his mother. And so they asked him about that. He said, because I am afraid that if I sit down and eat with my mother, and while I am unaware, she will look at something that's on my plate and desire what I had on my plate. And me being unaware that she saw something on my plate that she wanted, I would eat that thing. I would eat it being unaware that she wanted it and desired it, and that will be disrespectful in my book. That would be disrespectful in my book. And so some of the things that you see from some of the children today, this huffing and puffing that they do, If the parent gives them a direct order or command or directive, hey, go and clean your room. Something as simple as clean your mess in your room. They start huffing and start puffing, and they may suck their teeth and things like this. All right. And so these affairs should be left off, and we should cultivate the children upon leaving off the likes of these issues. Now, and so أن البر من الأعمال الخيرية. And so likewise we get and extract from this narration is that being good to your parents, being kind towards them, good treatment of them is from the al-a'mal khayriyah, is from the noble good deeds that will yield a tremendous reward. ومن أسباب دخول الجنة, and it is from the reasons of entering into the Jannah, meaning that a person treats his parents well. This will be amongst the means, by Allah's permission, of entering into the Jannah. وتكفير السيئات, and the removal of one's sins. ورفع الدرجات, and the elevation of one's degree and level. والحياة الطيبة المباركة للبار بوالديه, and likewise it is amongst the means that will lead to living a goodly and blessed life for the one who is good to his two parents in the dunya والبرزخ والآخرة, meaning they will have a good life in the dunya, their life in this world will be good, their life in the barzakh will likewise be good, and after the barzakh in the akhirah, the life will also be a goodly life. This is because the jazaa min jins al-amal, the reward is from the same category as the action that was done. So if you are good to your parents such that you give them a good life, then Allah Ta'ala will give you a good life in return. And that which Allah Ta'ala gives will be over and above that which we can ever imagine. So Allah Ta'ala, He will give you a good life in this life, the barzakh and hereafter. بعكس ذلك العقوق, and on the opposite end of that is that of disrespect to one's parents. When one is disrespectful to one's parents, you give them a miserable life, you are always making them sad, always causing them anguish and heartache and pain, then likewise you will have a miserable life. You will have a miserable life in the dunya, the barzakh, and the akhirah. Now, because this is something which, it is something which will bring about a punishment. عقوبته عاجلة وآجلة. It is something which brings about a punishment that is quick coming, and likewise a punishment that is delayed. Meaning a punishment will come to you in this life. You think you're going to treat your parents harshly and treat them wrong and just live a good life for the rest of your life. Everything is going to be okay and nothing bad is going to ever happen to you. The reward is from the same category as the action that was done. And if you give your parents a difficult life, then Allah Ta'ala will give you a difficult life. So the punishment will come in this life as well as the akhirah. عقوبة في الدنيا وعقوبة في البرزخ وعقوبة في الآخرة. إذا مات وهو من أهل العقوق للوالدين الأب والأم. He says, and this is if the individual dies while being amongst the people of uquq al-walidain, amongst the people who disrespect their parents, their mothers, and their father. وَلَذَا فَالْوَاجِبْ الْمُسَارَعَ إِلَى الْبِرِّ وَرَفْض الْعُقُوقِ الصَّبْرِ. So therefore, since the affairs like this, it is incumbent upon us that we hasten to be righteous and good to our parents. We look for every opportunity, because if your parents, and if you are amongst the people who still have your parents, then you've been blessed, no doubt. You've been blessed, no doubt, because some of us don't have our parents. Some of us, maybe we have one parent that's still hanging around. Some of us maybe have none. So therefore, if you still have your parents, don't take them for granted, because some people don't have that. As one of the Salaf was such that he had buried his parent who had passed away, and he was seen weeping and crying. And they asked him, was he crying over the death of his parent? He said, no, I'm crying because I had a door wide open for me from the doors of Jannah, and it just closed. So if you have your parents, then do not take the affair lightly of being good to them. They may annoy you. They may, irritate you from time to time, as parents tend to do. All right, but it's all out of love. It's because they love you, they care for you, and they never stop worrying about you. They never stop caring about you, caring for you. So now, so it is incumbent upon the person to rush and hasten to be good to them, and to leave off being disrespectful towards them, and to be patient upon them. واعتبار وجود الوالدين على قيد الحياة من الغنائم التي يغتبط بها الإنسان, and to consider the presence of one's parents and being still alive to be amongst the spoils of war. It is amongst the great bounties that he has, which many of the people envy. فيقدم لوالديه ما يسرهما دائما, and that he should always give to his two parents that which pleases them. And everyone knows and is aware of this. For the right-minded parent, if a parent has their right faculties, they're in their right mind, it doesn't take much to please them. It doesn't take much. Any act of kindness and goodness from one's child to their parent makes the parent happy. And an unsolicited hug. They don't have to pressure you for a hug or for a good word or for you to look after their affairs. Something, a visit. Just pop up with a visit. Pop up with some food for them and the likes of this when they weren't even expected. They didn't even ask for it. Something like this, it makes the parent's day. It's a small act, doesn't cost us much, doesn't cost much but time. All right, doesn't cost anything but time and maybe a few pennies. Something like this. If a parent is in their right mind, something like that means the world to a good parent. So it is upon us to rush, to strive, to constantly please them. فَإِنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ, so if the child happens to be from the people of knowledge, those who have knowledge of something from ilm, then he is good to them by way of clarifying for them from his knowledge in the affairs of the religion. Usul al-Deen, he clarifies for them and teaches them the fundamentals of the religion, and Huquq al-Deen, and the rights and obligations of the religion, and he teaching them, it is from goodness to them. هذا أعظم البر, and in fact, Sheikh Zaidi said this is from the greatest acts of goodness that one can give to the parent if the child has something from knowledge. If Allah Ta'ala has blessed that child and given them something from knowledge, that he exerts that goodness in teaching his two parents first and foremost before he teaches anyone else, before he tries to sit down in the masjid and sit down in front of the people. He begins with those who were good to him first and foremost, by his two parents. Now, هو after min bir bil mal, and this is greater than being good to them by way of money or other than it. ثم يبرهما بالأقوال, thereafter one is good to them by way of goodly words, speaking good speech to them and kind words. Now والأفعال الطيبة, and doing good things for them, which please Allah Azza wa Jal, and then it pleases them. ثم عظم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شأن شهود الزور. After the affair of disrespect to one's parents, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned what? Shahadat zur, that of bearing false testimony, and he didn't just mention it. عظم شأنه, he declared to be something great. It is something which is heinous and horrible. لأنها كذب, because it is lying. This is lying. حقيقة, the ulama, they say concerning qawl al-zur, that qawl al-zur is every type of false statement, not just lying. Every type of false statement will enter into it, whether it is an impermissible statement like a person backbiting, then it enters into qawl al-zur. Tale carrying enters into it. Any type of speech that you can utter that is displeasing and angering to Allah Azza wa Jal, whether it is singing and the likes of that, all of that will enter into it. Every false statement a person can make and utter with his tongue enters into qawl al-zur. Now, but he mentions specifically here, Sheikh Zaidi mentions kadhib. فَالْكَذِبُ haram. So therefore lying is haram in the legislation of Al-Islam. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإياكم الكذب. The Prophet said, beware of lying. فَإِنَّ الْكَذِبَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْفُجُورِ. For indeed lying, it leads to wickedness. وَالْفُجُورَ يَهْدِي إِلَى النَّارِ. And indeed wickedness, it leads to the hellfire. وَمَا يَزَالُ الرَّجُلُ يَكْذِبُ يَتَحَرَّى الْكَذِبِ. For indeed a man, and likewise a woman, lies and continues lying حَتَّى يُكْتَبْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَذَّابًا, until they are written with Allah Azza wa Jalla as being a liar. Now, وَحَثَّ عَلَى الصِّدْقِ, and likewise the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged the opposite of that, which is truthfulness. He encouraged being truthful. He said, عَلَيْكُمْ بِالصِّدْقِ, he said, it's upon you is to be truthful. فَإِنَّ الصِّدْقَ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْبِرِّ, for truthfulness, it leads to righteousness. وَإِنَّ الْبِرَّ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ, and indeed righteousness, it leads to the Jannah. وَمَا يَزَالُ الرَّجُلُ يَصْدُقُ وَيَتَحَرَّى الصِّدْقَ حَتَّى يُكْتَبْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ صِدِّيقًا. And indeed a man, likewise a woman, strives for truthfulness and increases in doing so until they are written with Allah Azza wa Jal as being a Siddiq or truthful person. He says, وشهادة الزور من أشنع الكذب. And when we speak about the affair of lying, then shahadat al-zur is ashna al-kadhab. Bearing false testimony is the most heinous and horrible form of lies. Lima fiha min adhumi, due to what it contains of oppression. So shahadat al-zur is oppression first and foremost to the one who does it. Shahadat al-zur is oppression for the one who does it. Brother should come closer, inshallah. Come closer, brother. Now, he said, first and foremost, is an act of oppression on the one that does it. He's oppressing himself. In reality, any sin that we commit, we're oppressing ourselves. Any wrong that we do, we oppress ourselves by way of that wrong. Now, and so it's an act of oppression against the person himself. Now, أولا بشهادته كذبا, by way of, first and foremost, he bore testimony, and the testimony that he bore, it was a false testimony. Wazora, it was slanderous, and it was a lie. Because it entails istighfafan bihaqillah. It entails belittlement of Allah's rights. And whenever you commit sins, and this is something which will take a sin from being just a regular sin, and it will increase it in level and degree. Because when you commit that sin, the fact that, as Ibn Abbas he mentioned, what comes along with the sin is worse than the actual sin. The sin may be one thing, but what it brings with it is worse than the sin. For example, the fact that you take Allah's rights lightly. You take the punishment of Allah and the fact that Allah is watching you when you do that affair. You know it, but you take it lightly. That's no big deal. That's why the Salaf, they will say, beware, iyakum, beware of making Allah the most insignificant one watching you. When you know that if someone else were to see you doing that sin, someone that you respect, a brother from the masjid, an elder, whatever it may be, a scholar, student of knowledge, the imam, may see you doing that sin, it may be embarrassing to you. You will have some sense of shame. Then how much more so when Allah Azza wa Jalla is watching you? So you have more shame in front of the imam than you do in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla? You have more shame from that elder or that student or whatever the case may be than you do from Allah Azza wa Jalla? So the fact that you are taking Allah Azza wa Jalla lightly, and the fact that He is watching you, you take that affair light, then that will increase the sin in level and degree. And so you are oppressing yourself by way of that, making istighfar, taking the affair of the right of Allah Azza wa Jalla lightly. Now, هذا من الذنوب العظيمة. So this in and of itself is from the tremendous sins. Secondly, the second person that you do wrong is the one who you are testifying in favor of. If you give a testimony and the testimony is false, you're trying to get your friend off, whatever the case may be, and he's your friend, then you are likewise doing him a disservice. You think that you're doing him a favor by lying on his behalf and lying for him, but in reality, you're doing him a disservice. He says that. Now, he says, فَأَكْسَبَهُ مَالًا حَرَامًا, because maybe by way of you lying in favor of him or lying for him, you bring to him some wealth that he does not really deserve, some wealth that is actually haram, right? And he consumes that wealth. He takes that wealth and he goes and he buys something with it, feeds himself, feeds his family, whatever the case may be. That lie that you told, it was a disservice to him. Or by way of your false testimony for him, you help him to transgress someone else in terms of their honor. All right, you help them to transgress against someone else in terms of their honor. Now, he says, "Aw safaka daman," or you aid him in the spilling of someone's blood. فَجَنَى عَلَى مَنْ شَهِدَ لَهُ أَيْضًا. So therefore, he commits a crime also against the one whom he has testified in favor of, if that testimony was based upon a lie. وَجَنَى عَلَى مَنْ شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِ وَظَلَمَهُ أَشْنَ عَظُمْ. He likewise committed a crime against the one who was testified against. You testify, you bear testimony against someone else, and it's a false testimony. Then you have oppressed the person with one of the greatest forms of oppression. وَشَهِدَ عَلَيْهِ كَذِبًا. You have lied against that person. You have testified against that person falsely. إِمَّا شَهِدَ عَلَيْهِ وَحَمَلَهُ مَالًا بِشَهَادَتِهِ either you testify against someone and you take away from that person by way of your testimony some wealth that was actually his or that he actually deserved. Now, you get into an accident and it's your friend's fault, for example. It's your friend's fault. Your friend was driving, right? You get into an accident. It's the other person, and the other person is not at fault at all. But you tell the police, yeah, he cut us off, all right? Because your friend said he cut us off. Now, and now your friend that gets the lawsuit money, what you gonna walk around with a neck brace or something like that too? Try to get you something too, right? So you have oppressed. You have done your friend a disservice, right? As opposed to telling him to fear Allah, we shouldn't lie. It's not permissible. And just take the points on your license or whatever case may be. Take the little hit. It'll drop off in a couple of months. Whatever. Encourage your friend to be truthful. Don't lie. This is not supporting him. It's not being good to him. So you oppress this individual by perhaps taking some wealth away from him that he actually deserved. Now, or transgressing him in terms of his honor or blood. فشاهد الزور كسب آثما وأثاما متعددة من ثلاثة جوانب. And so therefore the one who bears false testimony, he earns a number of sins, and from three angles or perspectives. كما فهمنا, as we have understood from this speech. لذا فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يحدث أصحابه وهو متكئا. And so due to this, when the Prophet Muhammad alayhi he mentioned the first two affairs, that the affair of shirk and disrespect to the parents, he was laying down. But when he mentioned the affair of shahadatul zur, he sat up due to the seriousness of it. He sat up to speak about this issue. Now, he says that فلما أتى إلى شهادة الزور جلس لأهمية الأمر, due to the importance of the affair. وكان متكئا فجلس فقال, so he was laying down previously, but he sat up and he said, ألا وشهادة الزور. He says, and indeed false testimony. فقال الرابي, so the narrator of the hadith said, فما زال يكررها حتى قلنا ليته سكت. So the narrator, he said that he continued repeating shahadatul zur so much that we said we wish that he would just stop. And this is min shiddatil khawf min uqubatil dhunub umuman. They said this due to the fact they had a severe fear of the punishment of sins in general, because he was speaking about sins and their punishments and what are the worst sins and like this. So they didn't want to hear any more about it. Right? They didn't want to hear any more about it. It began to affect them. And how does hearing these narrations and hearing the likes of this speech affect us? Does it change our direction? Does it change our path? That we leave here with a newfound resolve to do better and to leave off sins and disobedience? Or is it back to the same routine? Once we leave out of these doors? Now, as Ibn Hazm, he said that an admonition, at times it is like a beating, and the beating only hurts when it's being done. And when it's not being done anymore, then it doesn't hurt anymore. So we hear about these affairs. Does it affect us in this way? Right? They didn't want to hear anymore because it began to affect their heart, hearing about the punishments and things like this. Now, and so they were afraid of the punishment of sins in general, and shahadatul zur specifically. فالواجب على المسلم أن يحسن نفسه. So therefore, it is obligatory upon the Muslim to safeguard himself from lying in any situation or circumstance, even when joking. We know that lying is not even permissible when we're joking. We're just playing around. We can joke, but there's certain ways that we don't joke. We don't joke by lying. The Prophet joked around with his companions, but he never lied. He never lied. Now, so in any situation or circumstance, things are hot, the truth may actually be against you in a particular situation, still be honest and tell the truth. Now, so in any situation or circumstance, we should not lie. Even if the lie is called something else, because this is what the people do and how they get away or how they try to minimize sins in their eyes, is they call them by other than their actual name. So someone may call a lie other than its actual name. So they call a lie just a joke, or they call a lie an actual lie. Oh, I was just doing this or just doing that. Now, but alayhi da'iman an yu'awwid nafsahu as-sidq. Rather, it is upon him to always condition himself upon truthfulness Nam أو يمسك لسانه, or to withhold his tongue, in order that he does not fall into the crime of lying. التي هي من كبائر الذنوب, which is from the worst of sins, and Allah Ta'ala A'lam. Now, so this concludes the study of that hadith, and we pick up the next class from the next narration, a very important narration as well, the narration of Al-Mughira. Naam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.